ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
You guys, I just found the most incredible Mother's Day gift. It's called Goldbelly. Goldbelly is this amazing site where you can get the most iconic foods from restaurants all across the U.S., shipped anywhere in the country for free in time for Mother's Day. We're talking cakes from Ina Garten and Martha Stewart, Magnolia Bakery's famous banana pudding, and New York bagel brunches. Make Mother's Day perfect with Goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code MOM. That's Goldbelly.com, promo code MOM.
Hello, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. This is the podcast where we hear from musicians and artists about how and why they continue to defy the odds of a crumbling music industry and keep on making great art. On today's episode, we hear from Cornelia Murr. Cornelia's just put out this great, calming, groovy, meditative record called Run to the Center. She's on tour now across the US, so find her on socials, see if she's playing a town near you, and go see Cornelia Murr and her band. For this chat, we met in the middle of Regents Park on a beautiful sunny day here in London. We sat on the edge of a dried out fountain as the school kids ran past us, and I was a little bit scared they were going to steal our equipment, but they didn't. We survived and had this great chat about Cornelia's life and music. So here she is on 101 Part-Time Jobs. I hope you enjoy this chat. If you do, make sure you click subscribe if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or wherever else. And if you can leave us 5 stars, that would be massively appreciated. Thank you. After the jump, it's my chat with Cornelia. 101 Part-Time Jobs. Yeah, you gotta be careful with this. They'll go for your heads.
I honestly hope they do. I love birds, and I love how many there are right now. I felt the wings on my head.
That's it. Although, I mean, the thing is, birds are nice. They can be quite... It's like a pigeon. Or I'll tell you what, it's like the what's the analogy? Like a sheep. From far away, it looks really nice and fluffy. The closer you get to it...
We may not have this in common. I have like a weird love of even pigeons, so...
What, pigeons?
I love them all, but I really do love pigeons. And I love doves and some of the more common birds that people
Would
take
you
for
let
granted.
them fly on you? Would you become the bird lady in Home
I
Alone?
probably will become that. I kind of hope to become that in my older
You can
age.
do that, you know. If you go to Hyde
Trafalgar
Park,
Square?
they can,
Yeah, I have some pictures of me as a kid
being
a bird lady, but little did I know. I had a relationship with a dove actually that was like fell out of a tree when she was too young to. Well, I just ended up taking care of this dove during the pandemic and kind of changed something in my brain. Like, oh my God, birds, especially doves and pigeons. They love us. That's why they're here.
Do they?
Yeah, that's why there's pigeons in cities. You know.
Right.
And
yeah, you don't get pigeons in the countryside, do you? As much.
There's some, but it's not as much. You don't get them where there's no people. I don't think.
I've never thought of it like that.
We have like an ancient relationship with them, like going back to Egypt, and there's drawings, doves on people's shoulders and things, and anyway.
Tell me about this dove that you looked after in COVID.
Oh my God, love of my life, honestly. I parked one day. This is in LA, and I just closed my car door, and I had just started a job. Speaking of weird jobs, working in real estate briefly, which was not where I ever thought I would end up, and I was feeling very having a lot of identity crisis at the time, and it was my first day at work, at the brokerage, and I just felt like nuts, and came home, closed my car door, and there was this little tiny, like really, didn't know what kind of bird it was. She was so young.
Yeah.
Tiny bird who I took a video of it. Like, must have fallen. I'm sure she fell from this very tall cypress tree where there was a nest, dove nest, and she was all like disoriented, but like came right up to my foot and was like, "Meep, meep, meep," like just like gave a very clear message that she like needed help, and maybe wasn't old enough to be afraid of human. Like, just this was like this big, little, probably 2 days old. Anyway, I just brought her up to my house, and I think it was a she. I'm not even sure, but I think it was. And sort of on the fly, like called a bird store that was near, like, this parrot shop that like happened to have, the guy was closing, but he happened, anyway, I'm telling too long of the story, but too much of it. But I managed to get like a little bit of the right type of food and this sort of syringe thing that I learned to feed her. It was a crazy thing over the course of a few months.
Wow.
And she had an injury, which was like trapped. They have air sacs in their body, not lungs. It's like a different thing, and one had ruptured from this fall. She had like trapped air in this like bubble in her neck, and it was like, and I talked to this like bird rehabber in Arizona, this lady, about like how to like get it out, and it involved iodine and a needle, and it worked, and it was like
how do you know where to like pin the needle?
Because I was like talking to this lady on the phone, and she showed me some videos, and I just like, and I couldn't take this bird to a vet because in the States, I forget the name of the law. They would have just put her down. She's like not a bird. Mourning doves are not one you can have as a pet. So, and which I wasn't trying to do, but I just couldn't imagine. Like, I just couldn't do that. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna just try. It was totally a nutty time.
And it changed you.
Yeah, because I didn't really know this until it was too late. But she imprinted on me like within about a day. That happens when they're really, really young, meaning they like think that they are one of you, not a bird, and that you are its mother. And so the bond was like extremely strong, and I've never had a bond like that with anyone. The closest thing I can think of is like a child, like my own child. It was very, very intense.
Did you write about it?
Oh yeah. I've got like a few songs like I'm sitting on about. I don't know if it's like still too emotional, honestly. But her name was Ikinuki, and she was the love of my life. And one last thing I'll say about her is that she finally learned to fly, which was like a really big accomplishment because she was healing from this injury, and I didn't know if she was going to be okay. But then she like started learning how to fly in my studios where she lived. And then once she did, when I would play music in there, obviously, and she loved music. And I'm not making this up. She like would respond very clearly when I would like sit at the Wurlitzer, which I had in that room, and she would fly across the room onto my fingers. It was insane. And like just so beautiful. Yeah. And like on a guitar, she would like fly onto the neck of the guitar. It was really intense. So
that is nice.
So I have a thing with birds.
You got friends everywhere. That's good.
I guess so. That's a good way of looking at it.
And I don't condemn birds, just so you know. It's just, I am aware of, I don't mind them sitting on me, but I'm just...
They can be a little skeezy, I know. Just like us.
Where were you working at that time?
That was I was living in LA, and I had started working. Oh, where?
Where and where?
Well, I had gotten, just at that time, I had dipped my toe into real estate, and like a lot of musicians I knew were trying to do that in that time. There was
do you need start-up money to do that? How do you get into it?
Not really. You take an exam and you you do have to pay for like a course, but it's nothing crazy. It's not like a college course or something. And then you go and take a scary exam, which I hadn't done since school, but I did pass. But I worked as an assistant basically to a broker lady, like a person who owned a brokerage, and so I was like going to the office and helping with scheduling viewings and doing the like showing houses and stuff for a brief period. And then as soon as I got my own license, I was like, I can't do this, and I just never did it.
Really?
I just totally ran away from the whole thing. Didn't make any sense.
I imagine it's quite like dangerous, because if you start making a regular income, you're like, oh, this is nice.
I guess I just felt like it was like the last thing on earth that I was made to do, to like try to sell something that. Like, everybody needs a home. Everyone needs shelter. It was the pandemic. It was a really rough time. Economic disparity was, like, at an all-time sort of obvious, extreme. And like, houses that were, like, falling off of mountains were being being sold for crazy amounts because the money was just sort of coming up from under
Imagine in a way as a relief. You were like, I want to write songs. This is what I want to do.
Oh, my God, yeah. I just couldn't. just couldn't do it. If I was smart financially, I would have done it. But yeah, no.
When was the first time you realized that? I mean, I guess you keep on realizing. Maybe there's not just one time that you realize, like, okay, I'm not going to get a regular job.
Well, I mean, I hope I won't have to again. You never know what's going to happen in life, you know. When you really, I'm 35 now, and I've been doing music primarily. You know, I have had many other jobs since I started doing it, like about 8 or 9 years ago, like my own project. But at this point, it's like, what else am I going to do? Like, you've put a lot of time into something, just like any other field that you've invested your time in. It gets harder and harder to switch fields, you know.
And
there's a few things I can imagine.
Invest is the word, right?
Yeah.
You've invested your time. And everything else.
Time is money. Yeah. Yeah. And then you just, I mean, also it's like, what are you going to say to a, you know, like in a job interview, like, well, I was a musician forever and now I'm trying to work in advertising. Cool. Like,
what are some of the worst or most memorable jobs, I should say? Because I guess some of the most memorable are quite often the worst, but they can be the ones that you made friends at.
Well, there are certainly some I did not make friends. Let's see. I was a nanny for a long time, on and off, and it was cool. I did make friends because I sort of ended up in this little niche of like looking after musicians' kids. So people who like were musicians, and like maybe we had friends in like maybe that we were friendly a little bit, and also they understood better than some employers, like when I needed to go away or play
they got it,
music, because they would go away too, and then I wouldn't have a job. Like, you know, it was like never a very stable situation, but it was friendly. Or I'm still friends with some of those people and their kids.
What town is this?
That was mostly when I was in LA.
So there's musicians in LA, right?
Good question.
There's some people there.
There's some there. Yeah, there's a few. Yeah, I did it in New York as well. There's a few there too. You got a good reputation
of being the musician's nanny.
I guess. Small scale, but a little bit of I found my little place for a while. Yeah. But God, I was once a personal assistant in New York City to a very wealthy, wacky woman. And my job sort of morphed a lot. I was like running her store. She had a storefront that it kind of changed all the time. I never really knew what the day was going to bring. But I sort of, for a while, became her chauffeur.
Okay.
Which in New York City, I like driving in New York City, but I was driving her big, you know, like SUV. Really didn't want to like
2 meters
hit
high.
anything, you know.
Yeah.
And like I just remember one day in horrible weather, in like a blizzard, she wanted to go uptown. I shouldn't. She was Australian. I really shouldn't quote her, but
no, it's good.
She just like did not understand like traffic lights, or like I was like I can't go right now.
Can't run a red.
Like it's the red light, or like, you know, we're in a blizzard. Like I have to go a little slower. There was just no sense of that. So that was a wacky moment in my professional life. I don't know. There's been so many.
101 part-time jobs. 101 part-time jobs. The Run to the Centre sounds awesome.
Thank you.
Really great lyrics.
Thanks
and
so much.
I keep on finding stuff in it, which should happen with a great record, right? On the fifth listen, you hear a line, or you keep on hearing bits. And were you writing that like across a period of time, like a longer period of time, or was it in one sort of period, you know, one section, another period of time?
Well, the answer is kind of just how you asked that question. It's a few things are true. Like some of the songs had been kicking around for a long time, so it wasn't all from a condensed period, but it was a range. But it's about half and half. Like some of the songs came out like during recording. Like it's quite a range. So it's not, maybe doesn't feel all that cohesive. I don't know. I hope so. But I had been trying to make another record, like a second full-length album, for a really long time. The label that I was on, when I put my first record out in 2018, I was on a label, but they went under. So I was going to make another record with them, but then suddenly I had no budget to do it. Speaking of like jobs and or whatever, just reality of like the financial reality of making a record it's pretty overwhelming when you're like trying to just pay your rent, and then you're like, how do I finance a record? Yeah, it is. Even if you get, you know, even if you have friends and doing favors, and it's just still, you know, it costs what it costs, or it was an overwhelming sort of mountain to climb for me. And Yeah, there were many sort of stops and starts. I like almost made that record in a few different scenarios that all sort of fell through for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So
how,
yeah.
How did you keep when something like that happens and you feel so close to it and then it does fall through? I imagine at the time it feels like a setback.
It was crushing. Yeah, one of the kind of memorable moments like that was I made one song with somebody that ended up, I put it out later as a single called Hang Your Hat way back in like it was 2020, and we did it, and we were sort of feeling out like working together, and I was feeling good about it and thinking that we would just figure out some way to keep making music, and he was kind of working with me in my budget and whatever. And then the lockdown occurred like right after we'd finished that one song, which at least we got one, but I was just like, God, it was just, yeah, and there were quite a few moments like that. So. And
then at some point you decided to build your own studio.
Well, yeah, I had a pretty makeshift one, but yeah, in those years, I sort of learned, I always loved to record like on my phone, like in a sort of janky way. But I developed it a little bit in that time, like started using Pro Tools and got some equipment. And I have a studio that is I don't have like tons of gear, but I've been like traveling with my like rig most of the time, so I can record wherever. And
what is that? Is it any like tape stuff or is it digital only?
It's usually digital these days. I'd like to get into tape stuff more.
Yeah.
I'm not that well versed in it, to be honest.
I feel like they're quite, susceptible to breaking for sure.
Yeah.
If you're traveling around with it.
Yeah.
But didn't you build a studio? Didn't you get a house?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Bouncing around. Yeah, a couple of years ago, Was
that more recent than...
It was a few years ago now.
Did you record Run to the Center at that studio?
Partly. I finished it there. So I was living in LA when I started making the album. I had been living in LA for quite some time, really kind of itching to leave. But and my friend Luke Temple had moved out to LA. He'd produced the record, and we were neighbors for a little while. I lived in Altadena in the last couple of years, which sadly now that's where the fires just like wiped out that part of town. So it's very much another era. But anyway, Luke was living nearby, and so we started working like at each other's. Well, mostly at his apartment. It was very kind of like cobbled together. And then we had a few days in Long Beach with the band in a studio, just 3 days.
Yeah.
But then I moved and the record wasn't finished. It was close, but like the arrangements and vocals had yet to be done. And I moved out actually fully to this tiny town in the middle of, the middle of the country, which is kind of the middle of nowhere, to fix up this old house that I managed to buy for very, very low price.
You're a homeowner. Brilliant.
I am. It's crazy. I'm in some debt, and it's a whole thing, and I'm renting it out sometimes. And but yeah.
And other bands can record there. Other artists can record there.
Yeah, it's not like a professional recording studio. I think it's more of a writing.
Yeah, what is, right? I mean,
some are. Sometimes it's like this is a studio. This is just a house that has a really nice piano in it, and
it's got a feeling. It's got a nice feeling. I saw some nice photos.
Thanks.
It's like, yeah, I'd stay there.
It's a sweet place. I've never had anywhere to live or to work where I've had like pretty much complete like sonic privacy. Nobody, it's just far enough from anything. There's neighbors around, so it's not like way out. It's not scary, which is nice. But no one can hear me if I'm like playing music.
I feel like that must be one of the more difficult things if you're trying to get really honest to yourself, just knowing that people are around. I mean, maybe some people it's easier, but I think
no, I can't do it. I find it so hard. Some people are great at that, just noodling around and like, working on. When I'm like writing, I just don't. I can't be heard by anyone.
Yeah.
Or if I am, I'll just
So can you press record on yourself, run back? Are you doing it? Can you do it by yourself?
Recording?
Yeah.
Sure.
At your spot, at your house.
Yeah, it's all very small, so it's like. Yeah, there's even ways. I don't have this, but there's ways you can like trigger it from your phone and stuff. Usually it's just like,
Yeah. But I mean, you can make lots of things like sound great now with very little, and talking about like the financial reality of it. It's like, and I think as a listener, if I know that someone has done a lot of it themselves, there is something beautiful in that.
Well, good. I'm glad you appreciate it. I mean, it's not how I'd like to do things differently if I can in the future, not always do it this way. But I agree that I think there is a quality when someone's mark is on kind of everything, and when their idiosyncrasies are allowed to remain in the music, that it's really special. I mean, Luke, he really did produce it. He was extremely involved in everything. But
you kind of wrote the songs together in a way.
No, we didn't write them together, except maybe just a chorus on one. But no, this not really so much the writing, but just the production. We were really like
sound
being, bouncing off of each other. And yeah.
Sometimes I like hearing like the sound floor, like the rattle of the snare,
Yeah.
or just like the fuzz of the
You
whatever.
feel the
I don't even know
room.
what it.
Yeah.
You feel the
room.
The room. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what, like, I think about this sometimes, that like a recording of sound it's a recording of like a moment in time, people in a space, their breath, like their age, their life at that moment. And you can't, it's kind of a mysterious thing. There is a quality obviously to old recordings it's not just the gear, you know. Like you can be a gearhead and like try to like simulate the like Motown, like, you know, there's something beyond that you're capturing, I think, when you record.
Do you remember the first time you thought, oh fuck, how do other people do this?
I think that curiosity's probably been in me for ages, because I mean, maybe because it's a rude question, so it like stirs curiosity.
Yeah,
or it's like traditionally like we're bred to think that's like you're not allowed to talk about money, you know? And I mean, like once you start, I don't know, going to school and meeting a lot of people, and then you're like, oh, I've got to do this, but they're doing that. You know, like how does that work? And then of course, you're doing anything artistic, it's just it just comes up, like when you're, you know, working in a restaurant or something, and you're not sure why someone is able to like afford like a big budget music video, and they're like in a similar level or something.
There's like music is such, because it's almost, there's so many different like feelings about it, because I feel like, well, maybe the first one you experienced as a kid is people not taking you seriously.
Definitely. Yeah. And then the older you get, if you want to kind of actually do it, people are like, you know, when you're thinking of pursuing it as a job,
it's kind of a joke, isn't it? But it's not a joke, but it is. But then here's the thing: is that, and I think about this all the time, taking something fun seriously. I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me, at least.
Well, loving what you do makes sense if you want to do a lot of it and make a lot of work, and if you love it, it seems to bode well for your productivity. But surely with music in particular, I think even perhaps maybe more than any other art, that's a stretch, but it's a particularly rough one, you know, monetarily, and ever more so every year, even now, like from when I sort of started releasing music, like it's changed a lot, just the, you know, the kind of advances people get or don't get, or
people say it changes every 3 years, the music industry.
That's true.
Sounds about right.
I
don't know,
probably changes faster than we do.
Changes faster than we're ready
that's
for.
How it feels like our cells regenerate every 7 years, but music is,
and 50 quid is probably still going to be the going rate in 10 years, isn't it, for a support band? $50.
I really hope not.
$100.
I mean, it's even worse here. We gotta find
we're dancing,
doing a little dancing. We're just so creative, we can't help it.
It's a problem. It's an issue.
I don't know. England is I love it here in so many ways, and I love so many musicians here, and there's such a thriving scene here as far as I can tell, but it is true that the fees are lower here than anywhere, as you must know. But even, you know, the States isn't great, but it's like coming here, and also obviously compared to the rest of Europe, you know, I've done an opening tour here, and I don't know how I even did that. Like, it's just like, I guess I got a ride in the van. You know, the band I was opening for helped me out, but I just don't know how many people do it.
Do you feel like you've smartened up to the economics of it? Like you have, I mean, you basically have to manage yourself to a degree. Even if you have a manager, you still know.
You got to be really involved. I think I want to be really involved so that I just want to know what's going on, and creatively I have my hands on everything. So I do have 2 managers who work as a team, and they're really great. They're like the first time I actually do feel quite supported, but it makes for more work because we're doing more. So there's like more to talk about, like which is
exactly what you
problem
want
to have,
and then it becomes a problem.
Well, it's just a lot of. There's a lot of like boring email stuff like every day, like, and I don't think I don't really need them to know, but I don't think like my parents or really anybody who doesn't work in this field like realizes how kind of unsexy and, you know, like just, you know, is the website, does it have that date on it, or like is it the link working, or things like that.
It's tiring. Imagine you get like quite fatigued doing that. Not to dwell on the negatives, but it's just true. It's like,
well, it's just like there are parts of it that are like a job. I'm not complaining because I love it. And a part of me, I think, even thrives on that kind of like, I like, you know, drinking my coffee and like dealing with that stuff early in the day, and then
it must be very satisfying doing that stuff and then actually seeing it at the show or on the record, or being like, okay, this is what you did it for.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
I think most jobs, you don't really know exactly why you're doing it. And even
just for like a paycheck maybe, and
making someone else more money.
Yeah. No, you're right. Especially at shows, I think. I hadn't played in quite some time until fairly recently. I did like a round of some record release shows, just 4, but they were sort of special because they were at small venues, and I think people who were there, like, they really wanted to be there. It was like probably the slice of like the most interested out there, and it was just so moving. Like, I hadn't felt that level of excitement and warmth probably ever. But yes, it really does make it all worthwhile, and more than I even kind of realized. I used to just hate playing, and even if there were nice fans, I still was just like, oh, it's just so. It was just so
Is that because
stressful.
you were playing for other people, or almost people are just discovering, or maybe don't know who you are at all?
I just had a lot of stage fright. I've had some blissful moments on stage, but I'm trying to heal that relationship with performing, and I think it's starting to. It's starting to work, but for years past it was just scary.
That's a real tension. That's an interesting tension, because it's like what you want to do, but it's difficult.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I sometimes think that there's this sort of irony to me in, like, I started off, I always liked to sing, but like privately, and then I liked to write songs, and then that turned into like really loving to record. But writing and recording they aren't always, but they are often like very hermetic exercises. Like, you're sealed in a studio, or like kind of the polar opposite of performing, like literally the opposite, like writing and composing a song and changing the structure and getting it just right, just like perfecting something. Not that anything's ever perfect, but as opposed to just like, here we go, like, it's going to happen, and whatever happens,
it's going to flow out of me.
And that can be absolutely like, ecstatic, but it is the opposite art form in a way, or like exercise.
Jobs! This is nice. So that over there, that's the lion vase back there.
It's beautiful.
And I don't know what this one's called. This can be
our vase.
It could be our vase. The Cornelia and Giles vase.
Yeah, the Cornelia and Giles vase.
101 part-time jobs. I'm a big fan of people's fuck-ups in the workplace, and those days that you just want to end now. I think there's some Schadenfreude. I think that's the German word for it.
Yeah, you've got some.
Well, yeah, I've got a few. Yeah.
No, meaning you love hearing about other people's fuck-ups.
I love hearing about other people's fuck-ups.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't know about you, but so much of my experience has been working with people who just want to let you know how great they are.
Yeah.
And like, I understand
boring.
that.
So boring.
It is boring. I want to hear about like the things you're not.
Yeah.
Because we're a community.
Because we're humans. Yeah.
And that is how. And then like there is like a serious note to it. Where it's like that's how you learn. Of course it is. You don't learn much by being the fucking know-it-all.
Absolutely.
Big butt in the room.
I think, this bee agrees. It's fine.
Guys gonna hang out.
It's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's vulnerability, right? When you're like, I think that there's something very attractive about that. Like, even a performer on stage who maybe I'm just telling this to myself for the times I've fucked up on stage, but depending how you handle it, I think you can like bring people closer in a way, if you're not too perfect. But yeah, what kind of fuck ups do you want to hear about?
You ever break anything? Ever cause someone else a lot of pain? Not physical pain, but like more like, oh, thank you for just breaking that 1,000-pound vase.
As soon as you said that, I had a childhood traumatic memory of tripping over a wire of a lamp in my grandfather's friend's house, and it just smashed.
Slow motion.
I've broken a lot of things. I'm a little accident prone. I don't think I've broken, thank God, like a really important piece of gear in a studio. But that's always the fear when you're in someone else's space.
That's the
and like drop a drink on it,
I've done that. I've nearly done that. When I was working at the radio station, someone came in for a session and they brought one of a box of some kind, electric box, and I did drop it. And I think it kept on working, but for that split second.
You were just like, nothing else exists.
Did you study? Did you go down that route?
I did. It's sort of funny that I did now. It seems it's long ago. Yeah, I did. I went to college, and I went to a liberal arts college in New York City called the New School, that kind of really allows you to study a lot of different things at a time and there's sort of no structure really, for better or worse. But I was really into school. I kind of wish that I hadn't gone at all to school, or I had gone to a more focused environment. I'm very lucky to have gone at all. I got a great scholarship, and it was, it's pretty amazing to get to go, and like I still had to pay for living in New York City, but it was pretty cheap as far as college tuition goes. But Yeah, I did do that. But I have these recurring dreams. I have some like unfinished psychological business around school, to be honest.
Okay.
I have weird dreams about like, wait, you can't graduate because there's been a course you've been enrolled in all year and you've never gone once and now you're stuck here forever. And it's like really intense.
You're
actually.
in Harry Potter.
I guess. I wish. That sounds better than these dreams. But
What about work fuck-ups? Have you really screwed the pooch any moment?
God, so many times. I'm trying to think of a really, really great example. So many to choose from. Like, you know, I was a waitress for a while.
Mm-hmm.
This place that I worked at this restaurant briefly when I was really young, when I was in college, called Lucian. That's quite it kind of blew up a few years ago because like Kanye West and Julia Fox they like got all like celebed out.
Yeah.
But anyway, and it was a little bit of that way when I worked there too. And there was this man, he's passed away, Lucian, who ran the place. Very large, very intense boss.
That's how you know they're a good chef.
What's that?
That's how you know they're a good chef.
He was not a chef. He's just the proprietor. But I guess my fuck up, this isn't maybe the best example, but I was so timid and scared on the job that I kind of he kept not paying me. And I kept being like, but could you, when is it? Because he kept saying I was training, like perpetually. But then it was like, a month of this or something. And I just couldn't fight for my, needs well enough, advocate for myself. So that's kind of a fuck up. And then I just like stopped going, but it just didn't make any sense.
Well, that's part of the training. You can stop training.
I guess you can just leave. Yeah. I mean, eventually he would like pay me a wad of cash, like at the end of one night and not really explain how much, like why. Yeah. And then the next time I went in, I got paid sometimes, which is inconsistent, but wasn't great.
What would your remarks be on your report card from an employer?
Wait, a report card?
Yeah, you don't really get reports cards for
I'm like,
employers.
now I'm thinking teachers versus bosses.
Yes.
I mean,
it's not school.
I think
school for adults.
In school and also in jobs, I think this goes for both of those scenarios. I didn't like rock the boat. I was always just trying to I didn't show much of myself because I just wanted people to like me, and I was definitely like, so much of us people pleasing away in our youth, and just very afraid of conflict, just trying to get by, just trying to just do the thing. I was very afraid of getting in trouble, like in both scenarios. Yeah. I think they probably would say somewhat unremarkable, or maybe not even very memorable, but she was fine,
through it.
Yeah, I was kind of hiding in those years, I think. I did have a job. I worked in a dress shop in New York City for a few years that hardly anyone ever came into. It was largely empty, and there was a buzzer on the door. So if someone was coming in, I had to buzz them in. So I actually used it for quite a while as like an office to record demos. Yeah. And I made more music in there in a sort of condensed way than I have probably ever since. It was just a great, fruitful. But I did get caught once doing that by my boss. So that was a fuck up.
Did you get in trouble? Did they?
A bit, yeah.
There is like not an irony, but there's an interesting thing about being that timid person at school, or being seen as timid. Maybe in your head you're not timid, and then going and writing songs and making a life where it's not about being timid. It's about projecting yourself. Yeah,
I know it. I sometimes think that people are drawn. At least I think I am drawn to this path. Obviously I love music. I'll just say this, when songs kind of come to you, you want to see them through. There's all those reasons. But sometimes I think on a grander scale for everyone in a way that we're drawn to maybe the most particularly challenging path that suits our very, all of our insecurities and triggers and sensitivities just so for it to be extremely hard, but extremely fulfilling. Yeah. Because it's maybe sort of a soul's evolution kind of thing. I get that. it's like learning something that's hard. I mean, writing songs is hard. Writing songs is hard, but performing is sometimes it's absurd that I do it because, I have nightmares about that too. It's why on earth would I subject myself to that extremely, vulnerable, scary thing? But when it works, it just feels it feels so fulfilling. I think because it's such a challenge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If it were just easy. I mean, and writing songs is also a huge challenge. Yeah, it's a hard thing to do. When it works, it feels great. But I think in a way it's like the hardest thing I could do.
Yeah.
It's easier to hide out at a job and
yeah.
like work in a dress shop or whatever.
Where does it come from, do you think? Do you think it was there something that happened when you were a kid, or something that, I don't know, maybe not when you were a kid, but maybe as an adult, where you're like, okay, no, this is coming from somewhere?
I mean, I don't know if you ask that question a lot and hear from people, like, I do think you sort of know, like that you have something to give, even if you can't believe it and you want to stuff it down, and it takes a long time to like reconcile that. Like, I mean, it's quite simple really, like with songs do kind of come to me. Not always, like there's like dry spells, but they have, like, since I was very young. I think that probably they do for a lot of people who don't end up, pursuing it, but like ideas come, and so something's going on and you don't know why and you don't know where they come from, and but it's like they even if like I can't like have like writer's block for a while, like it comes back, it's always just kind of there for me. So it tells me something about like not everything is just like knocking on my door,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's radical that people do that, that people like listen to that, because I think everything there's so much of like life and like
totally
capitalism, let's face it, that tells you to not do it.
Absolutely. I don't think I would have done it if there are some things that happened, some sort of miraculous like series of events that like led to some things taking shape for me, and if they hadn't come together like that, I don't know,
Yeah. I'm glad they did. Great record.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cornelia. So there was Cornelia Murr here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Her new album, Run to the Centre, is out now. I'd recommend going and buying it on LP. Go and stream it as the second option, and go see her on tour. Thanks so much for being here. We'll be back next week with 2 more episodes with exciting and interesting guests, and we'd love to have you along. So while you're here, click subscribe. Cheers again, and see you soon.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.